Presentation on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Well, not a lot happening at Everbank Stadium these days. Or maybe there is a lot happening at Everbank. Just outside that building, we've got a lot of construction going on. The march toward 2028 and the new stadium, the stadium of the future. But the future is now when it comes to the 2025 NFL schedule. There will be a game in there in August and many more to come this fall at normal capacity, remember, here in 2025. And who will play in the first game of the regular season against the Jaguars? The Carolina Panthers. 1995 Hall of Fame game, ring a bell. 2025 season lid lifter will be the Carolina Panthers. And, well, they might think it's a winnable game, but so do we here in Jacksonville. Hey, everybody, Brent Martineau, along with the Action Sports Jax team on a special NFL schedule release Wednesday. NFL let us know, well, with plenty of time. And then the leaks happened over the last couple of days. By now, we don't have to do some American Idol kind of reveal. You know what the schedule is. You see it behind us, but let's analyze it. Let's talk about it. What do you think about it? You can interact with us for the next hour or so, and we'll talk about getting you ready for the 2025 NFL season, including some of the preseason games, which we have some new information on as well. All right, here's the highlight of the season. Right now is the Kansas City Chiefs. We knew that was a big-time opponent. Well, how about in prime time for the Jacksonville Jaguars at home at Everbank? Monday Night Football for the Jaguars against the Chiefs. Now, the Jags haven't beaten the Chiefs since 2009 when they won 24-21. Let me not just say that in passing. The Jaguars have not beaten the Chiefs since 2009. That was more than a decade and a half ago. They have lost 8 consecutive games to Kansas City, who obviously is, well, if not the best team, one of the best teams in the league, perennially good. Jags have had some good matchups in recent years against the Chiefs, including a couple in 2023 and the playoff game in 2022, but they are yet to beat them since 2009. So Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce back, Taylor Swift perhaps. I mean, we got stars out for that one on Monday Night Football in Week 5 of the NFL season, and that includes Travis Hunter. So how much do you think? This is a curiosity here. Did the Jags have a primetime game? Because this is the only one. Did the Jags have a primetime game before they drafted Travis Hunter? Or did they get one once they drafted Travis Hunter? Plenty of intrigue around the NFL. And this is not hyperbole. Travis Hunter is one of the biggest stories going into the 2025 NFL season, which makes the Jaguars an interesting story as well. And, of course, they put Trevor Lawrence, Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr., Liam Cohen and company in the early stages of the season. And you could get another primetime game later if one of those games at the end is big. We'll talk about those coming up in just a little bit. Well, the Jaguars asked the players what they are most looking forward to this upcoming season. And for Travis Etienne, it was the home opener, the Carolina Panthers. Well, that's because he gets to play against his brother. Nice little sponsorship mention right there for these guys, too. I mean, hats off. Get some coffee. I'm a coffee guy. Let's go. How about a little flat white, little vanilla in there? Bring it to me, Travis and Trevor Etienne. Even on a hot September day at 1 o'clock at the bank, the Jaguars will play against Carolina. So it's Travis and Trevor Etienne, one of the storylines, a home opener for the brothers. They'll play against each other. Travis with the Jags in year number 5. This could be it for him. Trevor, the former Gator and Georgia Bulldogs back, was a 4th-round pick of the Panthers. Also, battle of number 1 quarterbacks with Trevor Lawrence and Bryce Young being former number 1 overall picks. Also, Tampa Bay, well, there's some Bucs connections here. Dave Canales was the OC, now the head coach at Carolina. Liam Cohen took over for Canales as the OC at Tampa, now the head coach, of course, here in Jacksonville. Baker Mayfield might be watching that game closely between Carolina and the Jags. And as mentioned a little bit earlier, it was 1995 when Carolina and the Jaguars kicked off for the first time in their franchise history. 30 years later, they will open the regular season. Before we get to the London game, let's digest the first part of the schedule a little bit more, okay? Let me move this way. Yeah, how about this way? So let's take, last year, the start of the season was tough. The Jaguars went 0-4 to start the year. Remember, they beat the Patriots in London, went 1-4, then lost to Chicago 1-5, and oh boy, it was on. It was just a disaster of a season. It felt like it was over by the time we got back in October from London. Well, what's this going to look like? The Jaguars have only won 2 of their season opening games in the last 6 years. Both have come against the Colts. The Panthers, obviously not a high-level opponent, certainly a winnable game to get you off to a nice start. But then the Jaguars go take Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and that offense, maybe Trey Hendrickson will sit out. That would be good. So the Bengals in week 2, pretty tough game. The Texans, huge game right here. And we'll talk about the division a little bit later, but they better be ready to play this game now. You're going to hear me say this a couple of times tonight. They better be ready to play this game. Azeez El-Shaair knocked Trevor Lawrence out of that game the last time the Texans were at the bank, and that team didn't respond very well or enough to that one. We'll see if this team has the juice in week 3 to be able to punch these guys in the mouth who have won the last 2 division championships, and that's what everyone's chasing in the AFC South. So a massive start here because, okay, you hopefully beat Carolina, and we know this stuff's hard to predict. Bengals figure to be tough. They'll be underdogs. By the way, the Jags are already a 2.5-point favorite over Carolina. So this becomes a massive game early on to swing the start of the season at home, where you'd love to split with the Texans if you could line it up on paper, and you'd like to get the one at home. Jags have just been miserable against Houston for the better part of the last decade, so it becomes a pivotal game. Now we go to San Francisco, and this begins part of that stretch of many trips out west, which we'll dissect in just a little bit. But San Francisco, are they going to be good this year? Are they old, tired, done, or are they going to bounce back? 4 conference championship games in a row, and then last year lost McCaffrey, had a ton of injuries. Well, what are they going to look like in week 4 of the season? You would think this would be a very difficult game. 1, the Jaguars don't usually play well out west. 2, San Francisco, on paper, you would think better than the Jags. We'll see, but that becomes an interesting game based on what happens in the first 3. But that one's going to be a tough game, I think, no doubt. Here's where you say, can you steal one? Can you steal one against the Chiefs? Can you win for the first time since 2009? Or are the Chiefs just too good? They're going to be favored here in Jacksonville. Better team. Doesn't mean you can't beat them in the NFL. Somewhere along the way, you got to steal some games against some teams that you probably shouldn't beat or you wouldn't beat on paper. And you got to avoid losing too many that you should win or you think you should win. But the Chiefs is one to steal. And then they get the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks are interesting. They're rebuilding a little bit, but they've also got some parts. They have to come all the way over here. There will be a better crowd than you think from that Seattle contingent. If you remember the last couple of times Seattle's come to town, they've bussed people up from Orlando and South Florida. They have a pretty good showing at Everbank Stadium. They don't get a chance to see their team very much. So anybody that lives in a 3-hour radius, 5-hour radius of Jacksonville, they're going to probably come up, and they're Seahawks fans, they're going to come up and watch Seattle play. So I think a very difficult stretch here in this 3 with the 49ers, Chiefs, and Seahawks, but at least you get 2 of them at home. And if you do anything in the early stages of the season, man, people are really geeked up for this one. You know, you can build the crowd here. And Travis Hunter, Travis Kelce, Trevor Lawrence, Patrick Mahomes, huge storyline on Monday Night Football. And then, of course, you get the Seahawks. And then another game against a West Coast team, and that is the Rams. And we told you about this one because we knew about this one for, well, a little bit now. And we knew the Jaguars were going to play 1 game in London this year. That's significant. They've played 2 games over there the last couple of years. And it came out yesterday that the Jags, part of the International Series, will host the Rams. Be interesting to see what the Rams do. And you know what? I didn't check this. Maybe, Liv, you can check this on the schedule. Who do the Rams play the week prior to October 19th? Are they going to play an East Coast team and then travel? Or are they going to travel to London straight from L.A. that week? Because that's a long trip for the Rams. It'll be a 9:30 in the morning game Eastern time for us here in Jacksonville. All right, Cam Little's excited about that game. Thanks for checking on that, Liv. They are at the Ravens the prior week. I guarantee you they are staying in Baltimore or somewhere around there after that game, practicing for a couple of days, then flying to London to play the Jags, or they might just go right to London after that game. Depends. I don't exactly know how teams do it. They might wait a day or two now, but Jags did that years ago. Jags were in Cincinnati for an away game and then went from Cincinnati I think right to London, if I'm not mistaken. So Cam Little, he's excited about that London game. And the Kickers always love playing at Wembley Stadium. And Cam Little is excited about that as well. All right, so we've got the London game, and then we got the bye week. This is interesting to me because the last however many years, the Jags have played the London game more around this section of the calendar, and then they pushed their bye week under Doug Peterson to later in November, as far away as it could be. Well, now we're talking the middle of the season, so it falls in a better place for Jacksonville to just take the bye after the London week, recover a little bit, also right before the Florida-Georgia game in Jacksonville, which means on November 2nd, the Jags are also away at Las Vegas because Florida-Georgia game is on that Saturday, November 1st. So the bye week will come at a pretty normal time, and this makes sense. Jags should be able to figure out a little bit about who they are at this stage, 7 games in. Scout themselves. James Gladstone, Tony Baselli, Liam Cohen can make some adjustments if need be. You're right around the trade deadline as well, so you can make some interesting decisions at that point. So there's a lot going into this time of year, depending on what the Jags look like. Also, you now get a couple weeks to prepare for that other part of the travel. And we're going to digest this in a bit, but this begins an interesting swing of travel when you go to London, and even with a bye week, then you start going out west a little bit. So we'll dissect that in just a little bit. All right, let's interrupt this part of the program to bring you back to August and the preseason. And the preseason games are out, and the Jaguars have 3 of them, of course, like everybody else. They will play the Pittsburgh Steelers at home August 9th. Liv, I got to believe that's a Friday night at 7 o'clock, right? Yeah, I think August 9th. Let me do I don't have a good August calendar in my head right now, but got to be a Friday night at 7 o'clock because the next week so August 9th's a Saturday? Wow, okay, I'm surprised by that. All right, so August 9th's a Saturday, and then they're going to play on a Sunday the next week in New Orleans at 1 o'clock. The NFL's tried this a little bit with the preseason. I remember we were in Dallas for the preseason game. That was an afternoon game as well. And that's kind of obviously where you will play typically instead of these 7 o'clockers. So I think some coaches might even like that it gets you that normal routine for players and coaches and everybody else around the organization. So Pittsburgh at New Orleans, then at Miami. I can tell you this, I don't think there's a national game here, but I haven't heard yet. These games will be on CBS 47 and Fox 30, and we haven't decided which channel yet, so we'll have that for you at some time. And then there's some curiosity at the date and time of Miami Dolphins. Jags don't have that yet, so that will come out sooner or later, but we got plenty of time. So 2 road games for the Jags in the preseason, simple trips to New Orleans and Miami, and the home game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Jags will be traveling a bunch, and we're going to get into this section of the schedule in just a moment, but take a look at what the Jaguars have in front of them. Hey, guys, I'm going to go roll over here in this graphic, all right? I'm just going to walk into it. I like owning the studio here tonight. Do I have lights on? Did I mess you up? Brian, we're all good? Good. All right. Look at this. I thought they were 5th. They're 4th. 4th most. 29,000 miles. Holy cow, heavy on the jet fuel. Going to be an expensive year for Shad Khan flying this team around. London will always play a role here. And then, of course, you look at these West Coast teams, the Chargers, Rams, and Seattle. They travel a bunch all the time. San Francisco in that mix. But the Jags are right there. London a big part of it. But this year they've been pretty good about avoiding these West Coast trips overall the last couple of years. Not the case this year with San Francisco, Las Vegas, Arizona, and even Denver, which we'll talk about a little bit. Not necessarily a West Coast game, but a mountain time game, and still headed that direction. It's a pretty long trip. What's interesting about this is look at over here. Baltimore, Buffalo, Cincinnati, so AFC North teams. I ain't going anywhere. I could drive to their games this year. All right, I'm going to go back to the big wall, the wall that says it all, because I want to hit on this a little bit more before we talk about some of the other games. I think this is an interesting stretch. How are the Jags? How are they feeling? How are the Jags from an injury standpoint? How is the sports science crew doing? Because this is their territory right now. You want to, it's a big part of the season right in the middle. We'll see what they are record-wise. You go to London, get to rest up, which is important. You go to Las Vegas, long trip. You go to Houston, not necessarily a long trip, but it's on the road again. You're back home against the Chargers. They have to travel to you. Then you're at the Cardinals, so another West Coast trip. I mean, look at that. Rams, London, West Coast, on the road, West Coast. Those miles I just showed you for 29,000 of them, a lot of them are being eaten up in that section of the schedule. And how do they handle that? That's tough. And if they're in the middle of things, they're going to have to navigate that part of the schedule for sure. Speaking of Arizona, how about, let's go to the Raiders. I almost passed the Raiders. Raiders are an interesting opponent. They've got Pete Carroll. They obviously have John Spytek, who's the GM, so they've rebuilt their front office. They've got Ashton Genty, Geno Smith. So who are the Raiders, right? We have no idea. This looks like a game on paper that if you're playing good football, you can compete and win. Second year in a row, they go to the new stadium, Allegiant Stadium out there in Vegas. And I think that's a fascinating game because if the Jags are who they want to be, these are the kind of teams I'm talking about they've got to beat. They've got to beat Carolina. They've got to beat some of their division games. They've got to beat a team even on the road in Vegas. They've got to be able to beat the Raiders. Depending on what happens in the early part of the schedule, the Texans game is always going to be big. But I think if you get the one in your back pocket at home in week 3, this one might become a little less significant, and then you got a chance to sweep them. So we'll see how that shakes out. I think a lot of people love this game here, the Chargers, because you know what happened at Everbank the last time the Chargers were around, the great comeback in the playoffs. So it will bring back a ton of good memories. There'll be a lot of conversations about that game with Trevor Lawrence and everybody else, even though it's a new regime. So I think fans will be pretty fired up. And let's be honest now, you get Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence, and where are those guys at? Jim Harbaugh's team against a team like Liam Cohen, they want to run the ball. Here in Jacksonville, can you physically match up with the Chargers the way they want to play? That'll be a test for what this regime wants to be all about and if they can handle that and where they're at in that. So I think it's interesting there. Also, Justin Herbert's brother is now tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So you got that going on for you as well. All right, so we go back out to Arizona. We want to talk about this game just so we can talk about one person. That guy right there, Calais Campbell, is still playing football. It's amazing. He's 38 years old. He's still going. Another one of these games that I kind of liken to the Raiders, though, where who are the Cardinals? Got a good matchup at receiver. Brian Thomas Jr., Marvin Harrison Jr., both drafted last year in the first round. So you'll have that talking point. We'll see how Travis Hunter's doing at that stage. Kyler Murray, where's he at in his progression in the NFL? Is he having a good year? Is it bad year? Is he banged up? He's had it all in his career, a little bit like Trevor, to be honest. And you do get Calais Campbell and company. So if you're good, if you're going to compete in the playoffs, this becomes a game on the road, much like the Raiders, that you'd like to win. Keep in mind, even in 2017, the Jags went out to Arizona. That was a bit of a homecoming when Calais Campbell had come here to be a free agent. And Jags lost that game 27-24, still made the postseason. I think Arizona was just okay that year. All right, now, we've navigated a bunch of the schedule here. The next part is the easy part. I'm not sure anything's easy in the NFL. But let me paint a scenario. Hey, Brian, can you pull that camera out of there a little bit? Thank you. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to stop at the Chargers. All right? We're 10 games into the season here in Jacksonville in 2025. Get off to a 2-1 start. 2-2, maybe even 2-3, but 3-3, 3-4, 4-4, maybe 4-5, 5 I don't know. Somehow you're 5-5. Find a way to get you 5-5. That's what we want to do. If you can get 5-5 after 10 games with that part of the schedule, might be tough for some, might be easier for others. Then we come over here and we start with the Cardinals. And if you're going to be a playoff team down the stretch of the season, Cardinals, Titans, Colts, Jets, Broncos, Colts, Titans. I'm not telling you to run the table, but this is a doable stretch. If you're going to be playing your best football, if you're in the mix, this gets you a chase for double digits. You got to win this game. You got to win 3 out of the 4 against the Titans and Colts. You got to beat the Jets at home and probably lose to the Broncos on the road, right? I love how we do this. Like, we've already mapped it out. That's the way it's going to work. But seriously, if you have 5 wins at this stage, you can paint a picture where you can get to 9 wins, and that might be in the AFC in the mix for a wild card, maybe. Maybe even the division, depending on how that goes. But if you can get to 10 wins, now you're really talking. So I don't know if you have to be 6. If you feel better about being 6-4 in the front end, and then on this final 7-game stretch go 4-3, that makes it a lot more reasonable, right? If you can go 4-3. But I think when starting with the Cardinals, where are you right here? 4-6, not making the playoffs probably. 5-5, got a chance. Got to go though. 6-4, good chance. Good chance to make the postseason. And this is fun football down this stretch. So let's talk more about the stretch. We were talking about the Cardinals, but this is what the NFL does now. They will put these division games right at the back end of the season. And the Jags are going to play 4 out of the last 6 weeks against the AFC South. Hello, sign me up. Doesn't get better than that. It's Houston's out of the way. You've got the Titans and the Colts 4 out of the last 6. Again, I just keep saying this. If you are good, or as good as you think, you got a chance because of this schedule. You got to win 3 out of those 4. I don't know if you can sweep 4. That's hard to do. Can you win 3 out of 4? The Jets at home, we don't know what they're going to be, but you got them at home. And then this one's the tough one. This one's the tough one. The Broncos, I think the Jags have gotten pretty good breaks overall on the schedule when it comes to weather. But the Broncos on December 21st, we're going to bring Mike Burish in just a little bit. But the Broncos on December 21st, that one could be tricky now. You got Mile High, the place rocking. Denver's pretty good. And it's December 21st in Colorado. Might stick around and go skiing a little bit. But will the Jags get a win? Not so sure. That becomes a tricky game, I think. That's a tricky game. So we've been talking about this West Coast stuff. Let's take a look at what the Jags have done out west against some of the teams they are playing on the road. So lifetime, gosh, it feels like more. How can they have only played these teams twice, right? But that's it. The Raiders 3-4 in a bunch of different locations. Now Las Vegas and Oakland. San Francisco just 0-2. The Cardinals, they won like the second time they ever played against the Cardinals. I think it was like in 2005. And then they lost in 2017. That was the last time they played the Cardinals, which makes sense given the NFL schedule. And then the Broncos obviously have a memorable win there back in '96. They have another memorable win there with Gardner Minshew, you might remember. But tough place to play for a lot of teams there in Denver. So how are the Jags going to do out west? Remember, it was Doug Peterson that had to exorcise a lot of demons, like winning on the road, winning out west, winning against the NFC. Jags have checked those boxes. Liam Cohen won't have to do that. But still, can you win out there? These are big asks, potentially, for a team that we just don't know yet enough about. Who are we bringing in? We're bringing in Liv? See what the fans are saying about this schedule. What do you think?
Yeah, the fans are weighing in. They're already giving their records for the Jags season, and we have a 12-5 up there. We like the sound of that. I'm going to say 7-10 because of the traveling, which we know the Jags, they've had a couple of mishaps traveling, right? Especially in the middle of the season last year. And, you know, remember a woe of October. Let's go to Randy. Better they don't come back to Jax if 2 road games in a row on West Coast. You know, we thought about that, too, in the sports office earlier today when we were looking at the schedule. But unfortunately, they're not going to stay over there. They're going to go back to back. All right, Sean, still, is it just as plausible to see 11-6?
Woo!
We like the sound of that.
11-6.
11-6. They need 4 wins in the division. I agree. Can they do it? The Texans, in my opinion, are really the only one holding them back. 2 splits and a sweep. When are we talking about that, Randy? You got to let us know. We will win them all. Steven, wow, undefeated. Are we going to be like the next Miami Dolphins? We'll see about that. I'll be at Colts Jags game coming from St. Pete. Michelle, We love the travel for the Jacksonville Jaguars. There was one person on here who did say that this schedule looks very winnable for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think we saw back in the sports office that this was one of the easier games in the NFL schedule. So we'll agree with that for now. But again, every season is a new season for the NFL team. So we're not just going to get our hopes up just yet. The Jags could schedule to practice at the Alamo Dome between the Raiders and the Texans game. That could cut the trip in half. What do you think about that, Brent Martineau? Staying over there?
I don't think they're doing that.
They're probably not going to do that, but it's a nice thought. I mean, maybe we can
12-5.
Maybe
Steven?
we can send that to Shad Khan as a little tidbit for them. Speaking of road
I
games,
want what Steven's beveraging up here on a Wednesday night.
12-5.
Yes.
Win them all, as he says, win them all. But then he goes 12-5. You got to make up your mind, Steven. What do you want to go with? And of course, a big Duval from him as well. All right. Speaking of road games, Brent Martineau, we have another guest joining us right now on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 streaming channel. We're going to bring in the one, the only, the chief, and Mike Burrish.
Oh, yeah. We put you to work today.
Yeah, I know, man. Shorten my dinner hour.
Did you?
Looks good.
But, hey, secrets out. You got a little heads up on the schedule, though, didn't you?
Well, maybe. Yeah, maybe. But pretty cool. Let's take a look at. We'll go.
I love being weather guy now too.
I'm a little worried about this. You might have my job after tonight. So here's all the games that are away, and of course, several of them are in domes. You know,
that's true. So many more of those now, right?
Right, yeah. So to me, obviously, like you mentioned, the December 21st game, almost Christmas, Denver. That's liable to be a cold game. Could be a snowy game, windy. That's a big one. Late in the season is the Colts, but that's inside.
Inside. You actually
Bengals,
snowed there last year while we were there, but inside.
Yeah. Bengals up north, but that's early in the season. That's the second week. I think that's the second weekend.
That's pretty warm in Cincinnati.
Average high is 80 degrees, so that could be pretty warm. Now, not likely to be as humid as Jacksonville, but still, that's pretty warm. You've got Nashville, end of November, could be a touch-and-go game weather-wise, but still it's an average high of 56. That's pretty nice.
Yeah. December seems to, mid-December to late December, drops pretty heavily in Nashville.
In Nashville,
right? I mean,
it really does.
Yeah.
The difference, you think of Nashville in the south, but it's quite a bit further north than Jacksonville.
Ask Dan Hicken and Marcel Robinson from that 2017 season. They'll say it was the coldest game they went to.
Yeah,
and we had some cold games that year.
Yeah. It was damp and chilly.
But you are right. All right. Dome. Dome.
Right.
Dome.
Raiders.
No, they're outside.
And San Francisco would be outside.
So, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them.
Yeah, and San Francisco could be touch and go, although still late September, typically dry in San Francisco. Their wet season's later in the year.
And they play Santa Clara. It's almost an hour south, isn't that?
That's right. Yeah,
so does that help it? Because you don't have the bay and everything?
You won't have as much impact from the bay. It could be a wet game maybe, but it's still a little early for their wet season. So
this could be a fun one. Right here, though. I mean,
weather-wise,
that's the most bad, but it also could be fun.
Yeah, weather-wise, that's the most interesting one, no doubt. And really, look at the lack of northern games outside of that, though. Once you get north of Cincinnati, Indy to Denver, you're not going to any of the NFC North. So
that's a good point. If you think about it, especially if you get that late in the year, those are the worst games. We went to a Jets game where it just poured down rain.
Right, yeah.
You get the Cleveland games where it's windy and snowy, maybe even more so than Denver that time. You can get the Baltimore Ravens. You can get Gillette Stadium and the Patriots. I mean, there are a lot of games up that way that you can, and Buffalo, of course.
Yes.
So I guess from that standpoint, travel is a little bit more, but weather-wise, you're really just looking at that Denver game that could give you some problems.
That's how I feel. Yeah. I mean, obviously, you could have a front or a storm system going in through one of these. It would bring a lot of rain, but otherwise, it doesn't look that terribly bad to me. I do have this for you.
Oh.
Well, we are headed to England, of course.
Yeah.
So October 19th, average high is 59. No, nothing unusual there.
What's up, Aspen?
And Aspen wants to see this.
Aspen probably wants to go to Denver.
Yeah, Aspen probably does want to go to Denver. It would be very comfortable. This, to me, is fascinating. We know our Monday night history, which isn't much in Jacksonville.
That's good,
quite honestly. Because look at this. We've only had, in the last 14 years, one Monday night game.
It's unbelievable.
Isn't that crazy?
That is unbelievable.
That was the game against the Bengals and was a loss. Here are all the losses and W's. We're still at 7-5.
You even went to the win-loss column.
Yeah, we're 7-5 since 1997. Temperatures, these are all in Jacksonville, and the temperatures, of course, are wide range depending on the time of year. Not particularly wet, typically, but we do have the Monday night game. This is the fifth week of the season?
Fifth week.
So that's early October.
Have we ever had that? Let's see. We had a September.
There's October 12th.
October and
79,
October.
That was a W.
Okay. So you're looking 79, 80 degrees.
Yeah, well, I can If you're curious about that, we can just go through it here.
Yeah.
This is the first game of the season. These are the average temperatures. I know that first game's going to be it. That first game. I want to say Kansas City.
Can't wait for the new stadium.
No kidding. I want to say the Chiefs are at home here, first game of the season a few years back.
They were.
And that was a brutal game,
Yes.
temperature-wise.
And we've had a couple recently that were like almost the hottest ever.
Right, in the 90s. And then, of course, you get factor in the field like temperature. On the field is always hotter. So that's going to be a hot one. Just a couple weeks later, we're home. It's still hot.
Hot.
And, we're also in the peak of our hurricane season here.
True.
So it's typically wet. It's humid. Feel like temperatures are way up there. The heat index.
This is why we don't wear ties on the pregame show anymore.
There you go. You're just sweating it out, right? And then we go to the Monday night game, and here you go.
Okay.
That's the average high temperature is 80. That's the average high temperature. So kickoff is 8:20.
Yeah.
If I remember on Monday nights. So it'll be down. It'll be
77,
you would think.
78.
Could still be very humid. Could still be wet, actually. But it's at least not.
And also, could be really nice.
It could be. And sunset will be well before this game by that time of year.
8:15 kick.
8:15 kick. So sunset well before that. Sun will be down. And so, yeah, that should be
not bad.
Doable.
I'd take my chances on
those first couple home games.
Yeah, I know. Back to that Monday night game,
Yeah.
that's a Monday night crew. Who's doing the Monday night games these days? Oh, that's Joe Buck and
used to be Fox.
Yeah,
and
Buck and Aikman.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it's good weather for them to play golf at TPC on Sunday or Monday.
And they can play up just how great it is here in Jacksonville, Northeast Florida, in the Gulf. And I'm sure they will.
They will.
And then we just have a week later. Seattle comes into town, low 80s still. I mean, these October games can be sneaky hot.
Okay, so this one is interesting because Seattle doesn't play in this stuff.
Right, yeah.
Right? So if we get a little above normal this time of year, maybe we get an 85 humid day instead, could play in the Jags' favor against the Seattle team.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I would
I'm not a huge believer that it does, but you could get a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, you could. And then we go 5 weeks before the next home game.
Well, that's because of the London stuff.
Right, exactly.
So you can go, it's basically a one game and 40-day span in Jacksonville usually.
Yeah, right. And so middle of November, we're now a week before Thanksgiving, and now we're starting to talk, pretty comfortable. A warm day in November would be 80, 85. We can handle that.
This is why we live here, kind of.
Right, yeah. We're getting into that time of year. And then we hop to the first week of December. Now we're down to 69 for the average high temperature. Although I've been to games in December that have been pretty hot.
Yeah, you can still get it.
But on average, we do a lot better. A week later, Jets are back, 68.
Pretty mild.
That's pretty mild. And then that could be a January 3rd or 4th game, is my understanding.
Yes, it could.
That's that last weekend, and average high temperature is 66. So that's the way it goes. You go from an average high of 90 the first game of the season to an average high of 66 over about 4 months. So
that's pretty wild.
Yeah. But that first game's gonna be brutal.
That's
at home.
Yeah, but hopefully you get the good weather. We had a bad rain day last year. It might have been the Indianapolis game. That was really bad kickoff. It was one of the worst I've seen. I can't remember which one
Here
it was.
At home?
Yeah, maybe it was Minnesota. I don't know which one.
No, Minnesota.
No, you were there. You went to that one. So it was like October, but it was a miserable rain morning, and then it was a little bit better throughout the game. Yeah. But we had some moments in that. We haven't seen usually that was like kind of the rain you get sometimes in August with the tropical system coming through. Right. And we do have the one preseason game in August that we'll have to keep our eye on when it comes to any weather. Also play in New Orleans and Miami in the preseason.
All hot. Well, New Orleans inside, but Miami be hot.
But also stormy potentially in mid to late August, right?
Yeah.
All right. Can we bring that first screen back up?
Which one?
The one with all the 8 places.
The away games?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can go back to the.
I'm going to say, Mike Bursch, you're coming on a trip with the Action Sports Jax department. All right.
Okay, here we go. All right.
And where do you want to go on the trip?
As far as venue or game?
Well, they're both.
Well, I would like to. I feel like Denver's a fun game.
Yeah.
I feel like out in the elements, it's cold. Denver's
good crowd.
Should be pretty good. A good crowd. Denver should be pretty good this year, right?
Yeah.
Up and coming. Jags. There's no reason the Jags aren't better than they have been the last couple of years. I think.
We hope so, Mike.
So I feel like that's a good game. So you head out there a couple days early. You go up up the interstate to Summit County. Day or two of skiing, right? come back down. You got the game on Sunday. You fly out Monday. That's a pretty good long weekend.
That's a nice long weekend right in time for Christmas. It could be a Christmas present from mom and dad, have them chip in, whatever it is.
Yes.
But I agree with you. I think, I look at this in a bunch of ways. Yeah, game, venue-wise, that's a great venue as well. A lot of people want to see this venue because it's one of the newer stadiums now. We saw that last year. Allegiant Stadium was beautiful.
Vegas.
Vegas
Really
is nice.
Vegas. This would be a fun one, too.
It's a cool place.
West Coast, San Francisco, great food.
San Francisco's a good place to visit.
That wouldn't be bad either. Yeah.
So, but I think of it two different ways. If you're going with your buddies, you might pick Vegas or even Nashville.
I can see that.
If you're bringing the family, you might pick Denver or even like in Arizona where you can go visit the Grand Canyon. We did that one year.
That's a good call. Yeah, you guys did. That's a good way to do it. Yeah. And of course, my previous gig here before I came to Jacksonville almost 25 years ago was Cincinnati. So I wouldn't mind going up there, see some friends and family, and taking the Bengals. And the Bengals, again, another team that's got a lot of talent that hasn't really realized that in the last couple of years, it seems like. So
you just got me. I remember talking about this today on the Brent and Austin show, but they're playing early against Cincinnati. September 14th, we're going to check if the Reds are home. Now on Saturday, you go to the Reds.
I don't think they double them up, do they? Or they might. I suppose it's possible.
Down there, they probably do.
They might. They're different stadiums.
I'll check that out.
So
that would be good.
Could be. That's another thing you could do a doubleheader, but it'd be baseball, football kind of thing.
Right.
So, and I got a college roommate from Oklahoma who lives in Nashville, so that'd be a fun trip for me. So I got no complaints, is what I'm saying.
Here's the beauty of
always travel.
Beauty of Nashville and even Indianapolis is you could leave on a Friday morning, miss one day of work, and be back Sunday night late and get to work on Monday with some of the flights.
And honestly, even Cincinnati.
Probably Cincy too. I don't know the flight stuff in Cincinnati. What are they, a Delta hub?
Well, they used to be, but they still have a lot of Delta connections and that sort of thing. It's not a difficult
probably can get back in
connection.
That night.
You can even, in Nashville, you can drive that easily enough. You can do that.
You could.
End of the game, be home by midnight.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But,
all right, Mike Burch, appreciate you giving us the weather.
Good time, thanks. Good luck. Let's go Jags.
Go Jags. We don't have the Packers schedule. He's a little bit Packer guy, too. But he's a Jags guy.
It goes way back.
It goes way back. That's fine. We got some of those Packers around here. Steelers, speaking of those kind of, who's going to have the biggest crowd at Everbank from a visiting standpoint? Not the Panthers, not the Texans. Chiefs. I mean, that's a growing bandwagon, already a good fan base to begin with. They had a lot of red when they were here a couple of years ago, if I remember. That red really jumps out with the teal, so it even looks more. Chiefs will have a lot. But I'm telling you, these guys right here, the Seahawks, they will travel well. Who else? Chargers won't travel well. The Colts won't travel. The Jets will have some. So you're looking at 3 games, I think, for the visiting fans, probably to be pretty prevalent. Chiefs, Seahawks, and Jets. One note. Oh, who changed it?
No idea.
Marcel changed it in real time? Brian, you good back there? Marcel Robinson. And by the way, Marcel said, hey, Brent, can you check like all the dates and everything? I got it. And I was like, yeah, I think I fixed one thing. Didn't notice that one. So I missed it. That was on me. But that did say Monday and changed to Sunday.
Did.
That's pretty good in real time. Nice job, Marcel Robinson. Appreciate you. I didn't know we could do that. He's not even here.
No, I don't know how.
I didn't, but thanks for watching and doing it. All right, Liv, where else do we go?
All right, so you talked about, all right, I'll walk right in.
I know Aspen's coming with you.
Yeah, Aspen's going to come with me.
Aspen, you're not getting a paycheck today.
She's like, I'm working for it.
You're getting TV time.
I'm working for it. She has to pay the mortgage somehow. You talked about a winnable schedule at the end of the season.
Yes.
And people even in the chat brought it up as well. I found it interesting that you play the division rivals within 6 weeks of each other.
Yeah, 4 games in 6 weeks.
4 games in 6 weeks.
So you're going to know each other well. Who are you by then for all these teams? Keep in mind the Titans have Cam Ward. How's he playing? Anthony Richardson. So let's actually take a look at all the.
Yep.
How about that? The whole AFC South. Let's go back to the Texans. Week 3, I think, is a pivotal game here right away. And then, of course, you get them again in Week 10 in November on the road. But I'm going to talk about this part. You better be geeked up to play the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
Azeez El-Shaair back at the bank, that's going to be.
That's going to be a big one.
This crowd's going to be big because it's Monday night.
But that one.
This crowd is going to be amped up.
That better be a sold-out crowd from Jacksonville's standpoint, not from Texans' standpoint.
And listen, who knows? Some of the new guys coming in, you're not sure. I think of a Jordan Lewis, right? Mm-hmm. That guy, he wasn't here, but I think he'll get that. He'll get that game. I think this is really on Liam Cohen. There's going to be a first test of Liam Cohen is how juiced up he gets these guys. What does he play off? Does he play off last year? Does he not care about that, but does he want to bring that emotion into it?
Yeah.
What about Trevor? Does Trevor bow up in a game like this? And listen, it's part of football sometimes. That was beyond part of football. But the bottom line is, like, as a competitor, I would think the biggest game on on Trevor Lawrence's schedule is this
100%.
right here. Now, there's other ones, but that Texans game at home specifically should be one of the big ones.
And remember, you have Christian Kirk in that game coming back. And you have, who else?
Cam Robinson.
Cam Robinson back there as well. So it's going to be.
Josh Hines Allen against Cam Robinson.
It's going to be really
Travis
interesting.
Hunter potentially at times against Christian Kirk in the slot. Pretty good.
That's going to be an interesting game.
And listen, Houston's good. They're the team to beat. That's the other thing. But I'm interested in the juice in that game, and pretty excited about that one.
All right, moving on.
It shows up. All right, so go back to the Titans and Colts, and let's go to the Colts first. And we've got the Anthony Richardson watch. Honestly, I like the kid a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know how good he is a player, but he's a tremendous young man, easy to root for, works out here in Jacksonville. So I want to be careful with what I say, but the reality of it, based on what he's done, is he going to still be playing on December 7th? Two reasons. One's health. The other one, Daniel Jones they brought in. So is he playing well enough to hold off Daniel Jones? And you're like, Brent, how hard is that? But still, he's got to prove a lot this year, Anthony Richardson, for the Colts. They have a good enough team around him if he plays well, but you got to split or sweep that Colts series.
Yeah, I mean, you play the Colts within a month of each other, and can Anthony Richardson make it all the way into December is going to be my who to watch for that.
You're not the only one.
Titans. Let's go to the Titans.
All right, so now we go back to the Titans. Speaking of quarterbacks, and Cam Ward, #1 overall pick.
#1.
It's the first time I can really remember, and maybe there are other examples of this, but it really felt like this year in the draft that Cam Ward obviously was the overall #1 pick, no doubt about it. But he almost was overshadowed. The quarterback being the #1 overall pick was overshadowed by the move the Jags made to get Travis Hunter. So that Titans game on the road in Nashville in late November is Ward and Hunter as much as anything else. And the Titans are trying to figure themselves out. Do keep in mind they've got Calvin Ridley still on their squad. And they, I think, have other Jags players still on their squad. They seem to grab a lot of the Jags players.
Them and Texans have really grabbed a lot of Jags players.
Yeah, you're right. Texans have probably even grabbed more of them this year. So, and then you finish.
Finish with them.
There's been a couple of times now. You finish with the Titans. 2022.
Knock.
Very good. The big play. Rayshon Jenkins, Josh Hines Allen. 2023. Very bad.
Very
Derrick
bad.
Henry running all over the Jags again in a game that makes a difference. So the league obviously seems to like that. They probably look at that. If the Jags are good, or even the Titans are okay, you get 3 out of 4 years that last game means a lot. And then that can move around, remember, on Saturday or Sunday. Now, not on this schedule, the playoffs, but Logan Cook is planning to be in one of the playoff games, and maybe 4 playoff games, or maybe 3, depending on their seed.
All the way into February. We go back to when the Jags asked the players through DMs on Instagram what team you got an eye on for your schedule, and he just sent a date. And yes, that is the date for the Super Bowl all the way in San Francisco. So, Logan, we like where your mind is going with that. And, Brent, I want to bring us to Jags Twitter now, because obviously every year the NFL teams get more creative every time they come out with a new schedule release video.
I haven't seen it yet.
I watched it, and you remember when we talked about the morning routine? They hinted at the morning routine.
By the way, that guy from First Coast High School.
First Coast High School. Well, he came back to Jacksonville.
So he helped them.
And this is him helping them with the Jags schedule release.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know what you're telling me, Roger, but we need more primetime games. Hello? Oh, God. These Chargers broke, man. Oh, my God. So when's my next meeting, bro? Camera's on. Okay, it's not negotiable.
Thank you.
Hey, Ashton, what's the 10 for? Because we got to do at least 10 million, bro.
Wait. What's the schedule?
There it is.
All right. Overall thoughts.
Here's the deal. To go, this isn't for me, by the way.
I didn't really.
They're never targeting me with this kind of thing.
You mean the shirtless guy doesn't target you, Brent?
So I dug into this a little bit more. I thought the league at one time gave the teams different things to go off, and that's not true. It just has become a little bit of a battle between the teams, and most of them pick trending stuff.
Yes.
And so this one made a lot of sense. I'm for it. I get it. Like, this one was trending big time.
For a while.
People know what it is. Plus, the guy's a local guy. Now, I will say this. You put him at number 33 in the backfield or somewhere on the linebacker. I mean, what's the part now?
We're going 12
Liam
and 5.
probably saw that guy walking down the hall, and he's like,
who did we draft?
we have a roster spot, which he obviously was a former player. And so, I don't know. How's it being received on social media? Did we like it? Social media like it?
Someone said, we love the Rams helmet flip there. Best part of the release.
Flip.
I like that. It was subtle. That's the thing. It started very subtle, in my opinion, because if you weren't looking at the helmets or, looking for the teams, you missed it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see over the next little bit. Again, I haven't been on social media since everybody released theirs, but who will take the cake? Like, I think we talked about this the other day on our show. I think the Chargers usually do anime.
Yes.
Remember Tennessee had the fun one, then they went back to back with the man on the street stuff.
Which the NFL put that back out today because they're like, it's still the best one.
Well, it's interesting, but the Jags, I'll tell you, 2 years ago with the script is always going to be tough to beat.
Yeah.
And that was so well produced. And that was one of the better ones. And I think Asher Grodman and folks have won awards for putting that one together. So the standard's high.
Yeah.
I think they're all fine and good, and it gets everybody excited about the schedule release. So good stuff by the Jags. You can get more of that on Jaguars.com and other social media channels. And you get more of this all the time at ActionSportsJax.com and on our social media channels. We're going to talk about this on the Brent and Austin show, obviously, for days. And everybody hypes up the schedule, and now here we are.
Now we have it.
And now we have it. Just a friendly reminder, the preseason games that you don't see on here, it's Pittsburgh on the 9th, which you said is a Saturday at home, and then 2 road games, New Orleans and then the Dolphins. Nice shot, Brian. Appreciate it. That Dolphins game to be determined still. These games will likely be on CBS 47 and Fox 30. At least 2 of them will be. I guess there's a chance there's a national game, but I haven't heard that yet, or I think we maybe would already know that. So I think you'll see them all on your official stations for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Be the other one. Let's see. The only game that you won't, maybe you won't see on the on CBS 47, Fox 30 is the Monday night game. That's an ESPN game. And we'll see about the London game. Sometimes that takes a little bit of time to figure out. Right now scheduled for NFL Network, but we usually get or can get that game locally as well. So we'll see. But a lot of CBS 47 and a lot of Fox 30, your official home for the Jacksonville Jaguars. All right, Liv, favorite trip?
Favorite trip? London.
That you go on. London? Oh, you haven't been yet.
I haven't been yet. Okay. Maybe this year. Who knows? It's a quick trip, isn't it? That's what you told me. But I would stay. I would pull Stuart Weber and I would stay.
Yeah, you already got enough vacation time in the fall living football season. I can tell you this right now. That ain't happening.
That's true. I can manifest.
We're just going to settle this right now.
I can manifest.
Liv's not going to London. Not this year.
I always ask. Every year I ask. Every year I get turned down.
All right. So, seriously, take your friends on a trip. Where do you want to go outside of London?
Okay. So before COVID was officially a thing, I was supposed to go to Denver for a ski trip in February. And so I've never been out to Colorado or any place really that far. The farthest place I've been is California, but I've always wanted to go there. And I've actually thought, now this is super dog mom of me, I wanted to take Aspen and go to Aspen, Colorado.
There you go.
So that would be my trip. Even though it's in the middle of winter, I feel like that's kind of the best time to go, in my opinion, because you're going to live the full Denver, Colorado experience.
Aspen, you're going to have to behave a little bit better than you did tonight on the show if you're going to go fly out to Aspen.
Yeah, we're going to have to
You
get.
ever been on a plane with Aspen?
No.
Oh,
No, but
maybe you have to do that.
apparently, so there is like a bark airline that people and their dogs can go
Really?
on. Yeah,
Learn new stuff all the time, folks.
all the time. I would definitely, I mean, it's definitely expensive, but I would do it.
Okay, let's recap this thing and get out of here on our Action Sports Jax 24/7 network NFL and Jags schedule release show with the Action Sports Jax team and Aspen, who's obviously tired. So this is our cue that we have to go soon. We'll have more coming up throughout the next couple of days into the weekend. But again, season opener against Carolina, a game that the Jags feel probably good about. This first part of the schedule is very interesting. What can they navigate up to the Seahawks, right? And really, where are they at the bye week? Are they 4-3? Are they 3-4? Is that okay? I think after the Chargers is really significant. What is your record?
Yeah.
I think if you can get to 5-5, you give yourself a chance the rest of the way with that kind of schedule. But as we know in the NFL now, these teams that we think are going to look a certain way
Never do.
don't always look a certain way.
No.
Now, these guys usually look a certain
They're going to
way.
look this way. They're the 1%, let's be honest.
But is Denver going to have a good year this year? Is Bo Nix going to have a little bit of the C.J. Stroud sophomore year? That will be interesting to see. But we got some really cool matchups for the Jags. From a quarterback standpoint, I even think the Raiders won with Ashton Genty, who the Jags likely would have drafted if they didn't go get Travis Hunter. And then how much is Travis Hunter on display along with this Jags team and this new regime? Well, they definitely will. He will be on Monday Night Football for the Jacksonville Jaguars at home. So that's going to do it. I'm not predicting the schedule. Maybe tomorrow morning on the Brent and Austin
Oh, wow.
show,
Usually
we'll
it's the
predict
first thing you
schedule.
like.
We'll do that. I got to digest it a little bit more. And then
Sleep
we'll
on
predict.
it.
What was the highest thing we had? 12-5?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were drinking a little bit.
Well, he also said we go undefeated and be like the Miami Dolphins.
Okay,
But
so 11-6.
that was another one.
11-6, you're going to have to really go on a run, and you're going to have to be 6-4 at this Chargers game, in my opinion, to get to 11-6.
Yeah.
11-6.
It's definitely going to be a fun holiday season, I feel like, for the Jacksonville
That
Jaguars.
would be a lot better than the last couple of
Yes.
years. More like 2022 would be nice.
Yes.
And let's see, 10-7, does it get you in the playoffs? Most likely. That still is very lofty. I don't know what the Vegas over/under is. I think somebody might have said 6.5 or 7.5. So we are being way bullish here when the schedule gets released. I don't know what the floor is of this team, but I never thought 4 was the floor of last year's team. So,
But what about the division? Can we win the division is my next question,
well,
in my opinion.
9 or 10 wins, 9 at the minimum, but 10 wins put you right in that spot, and then it comes down to tiebreakers. Whoever said that on the chat said 4-2 in the division. That's what should be the goal. And one other huge note here. The Jags were awful at home the last couple of years, really. They have got to win home games.
Yes.
There are 9 of them if you include London. In my opinion, they have to have 6 wins at home. And some of these are hard. The Chiefs, the Texans, of course. The Seahawks could be tricky. The Rams in London is a home game. The Chargers. Those are Jets. Those are tricky games. You got to win 6. You got to start winning home games. So,
and also, you got to win on the West Coast.
well, you got to win a little bit on the West Coast. You don't have to have a
Don't have, at
if you
least
win your
split the
home
West
games,
Coast.
you win your home games and you win your division games and you come out okay, then you can slip up on the West Coast a little bit, in my opinion. So we'll see how the Jaguars do. All right, for Liv Tassely, Martineau Robinson, the rest of the Action Sports Jax team, and Aspen, who someday will go to Aspen. Thanks for hanging out with us on our NFL schedule release show. We'll talk to you more about it on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network each and every morning, 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. on the Brent and Austin show. And the bank will be open in August.